So I'm Summer Hill, and I have revived Faces of NPR, where I highlight different people around NPR. And today I am with the excellent Josh Rogosin. So we always get started by telling me where you're from and what you do at NPR.
I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm the audio engineer and sometimes producer of the Tiny Desk concert series.
Okay, so did you grow up in LA?
Yeah, until I was 12, I was in North Hollywood, born down the street in Burbank, and loved being an LA kid, roaming around. But my parents are thespians and moved to New England when I was 12 and started a theater and an acting school there.
So you first walked into NPR in 1999. What were your thoughts when you first walked in here?
I was recently graduated from Ithaca College, and I was walking by NPR's headquarters on my way to the Shakespeare Theater from my apartment in Washington, D.C., and thought, oh, I should probably pop in there and see if they need any audio engineers.
Okay, so 1999 is now 2022. So what has changed at NPR and what has stayed the same?
Well, we've gone digital. It took quite a long time, but we used to actually cut everything on quarter-inch analog reel-to-reel tape. We had processing chains with EQ and compression and notch filters, and everything was actually routed through patch cords. And I feel incredibly lucky that NPR was a little bit slow to transition to the digital age, because I got an incredible education in the analog world, which I think really informed all of my production in the digital.
What has kept you all these years? You've been here for so long.
The people who work here are extraordinary. I've never felt a sense of true competitiveness.
So, moving forward to these next, I don't know, 20 years, what are some things that you want to change about NPR and what are some things that you want to stay the same?
Well, I obviously want the community to stay the same, of everyone helping each other out and everyone striving towards the same goal of excellence and celebration of the arts, but also, telling the truth and being really good storytellers through the medium of sound, which I love so much. Well, I would love NPR to continue to foster happy accidents. The entire Tiny Desk is a happy accident. No one asked permission to start doing it, and I think that's where the magic happens.
That's really beautiful. What is your favorite as far as audio?
That is such a tough question.
I'm
I
sure.
am unbelievably blessed to not only watch all of these incredible musicians, but collaborate with them, usually 3 times a week. And I can only just name a few of my favorites that just kind of blew my socks off. Monsieur Pyrénées from Bogota, Colombia. They came and just played with lots of rhythm and heart. Another artist that I absolutely loved, that I felt very overwhelmed at first, Natalia Lafourcade, came in with basically her entire backline for a full stage show at the Warner Theater here in Washington, D.C., a massive setup. And the cases just kept rolling in and rolling in and rolling in. I didn't know what the instrumentation was, and they kept adding stuff from the pile in the corner and bringing it behind the Tiny Desk. And I was frantic. A lot of these concerts I'm recording alone, and I'm running around trying to figure out how to capture everything. And I remember before the concert started, Felix Contreras introduced them and said, "Can we just give a hand to Josh for figuring this all out?" And it was like, oh, I'm noticed.
You have gathered sounds all over the world: Greece, Cambodia, West Africa. But what does that mean to gather sound?
Well, it's sort of like telling stories through sound. And as audio engineers and all that I've learned from my peers here at NPR, my incredibly generous peers, have been different sound gathering techniques, because there's hundreds, thousands of different kinds of microphones. So you learn the differences between them: condenser, dynamic. Then you learn different stereo sound gathering techniques, how to tell your story.
What makes a good sound a good sound?
I think it's not necessarily what makes a good sound, but how can I figure out how to capture whatever sound that's happening given all of the tools and experience that I have, what's the best way to capture, or what is a way that, the other thing is there is no best way. All of these things are completely subjective. It's all art, and there's no wrong or right answer. So I think it's more about, okay, there's the sound of this instrument that I've never heard before. How am I going to capture it? There was a band called Co that came in, and I think all of their instruments were made of garbage, like quite literally, but beautiful garbage. And I'm like, I've never recorded this piece of garbage before. What kind of sound does this make? And anyway, incredibly, the instrumentation is really unique and interesting and wonderful. I need to figure out, like, okay, how should I set up a mic to capture that? So
Okay.
I'm very fortunate that I have a lot of different microphones I get to play with.
Yeah. So, which Tiny Desk performance or concert were you looking most forward to? Like,
I've been a big Ben Folds fan for a while, and
Okay.
he just like bangs the shit out of his piano, which I really appreciate. And I thought it would be really fun to just see him like tear up our little upright that everyone has
Yeah.
played, from Randy Newman to, I don't know, Moses Sumney, everybody, a lot of, that's amazing. The fingers that have been over that fingerboard. And who else? I mean, I've been a Police fan since I was a little kid. So when Sting came in, the fact that I got to like hang out and chat with him right here for a couple
Yeah.
of minutes about my favorite albums and Yada Moon Dada, he's like, oh, I haven't listened to that since 1973 or whatever. And
way.
yeah, but it was I was tickled to be able to record someone that I went to go see in concert when I was 15.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
And you get close contact with the artist, like you are communicating with them and working with them on a level that no one else is.
Yeah, I think the shotgun mic in particular is not, some people think, oh, I can just kind of go over here, but when I go over there, you lose my voice. So I just have to give them a little bit of a spiel with, like, don't get right up on top of it because it's a shotgun mic and it'll be plosivey and pee-poppy and not sound good, but also always face it.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's like, forget it's there, but never forget it's there. So it's kind of like ridiculous.
You've been in this position for 7 years, over what, 500 Tiny Desks?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, what are your next professional goals if you have any?
Wow. That's a great question. I love the idea of maybe bringing something like this to colleges and universities, starting a club where I can be a consultant or just come in and kind of start up a club that then the students can run on their own, like a video audio club that is about capturing music in a really stripped down, simplified way. Always pushing the boundaries has been something that I've loved about this job. People think, oh, it's the same thing every time, but then I brought in Blue Man Group. I've been bringing in a lot of theatrical performances to kind of push the boundaries of what we do here. Then we did Hadestown behind the desk, and Come From Away, and The Band's Visit, and lots of different theatrical performances, because I grew up doing theater my whole life. That's my background. So I feel like everyone on the music team has an expertise, and so I'm constantly thinking about how to expand the boundaries of what we do here.
Okay, so you spent a lot of time in public radio. What has drawn you to public radio?
I just fell into it by walking by on my way to my other job.
Wow.
That's literally how I started working at NPR.
What do you have up your sleeve?
Well, I already mentioned
The Lion King.
I'm bringing The Lion King.
How long does it take to go from the concert to published? So how long does it take for you to mix and edit?
It depends on the show. So I think for Elisa Amador, who was our contest winner, we had to flip it very quickly. So it may have been a couple of days. We just had in Madison Cunningham, and her band and her music completely floored me. It might be in my top 5 favorites. It was that good. And I just finished a rough mix on that, but it doesn't publish until next month. So there might be, 4 or 5 weeks. Then there's some Tiny Desks that have happened that we're not allowed to publish.
Okay, so for my final question, I would like to know some Tiny Desk tea. What is a Tiny Desk story, or like an artist that came in here, something that people do not know? You have to spill the tea.
Oh my goodness. I remember David Crosby, who's a hero of mine, came. He had an interview right before his Tiny Desk, and they kind of shuffled him over, and the audience was already here. And usually we like to give the artist a chance to sort of like get comfortable and like without an audience. And He's like, oh, how am I supposed to hear? Where are my monitors? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Crosby. We don't have monitors here. You know what? Like, and the band was like, I think it's going to be okay, David. Let's just try. And I basically just said, if you could just try one song, humor me, and see how it feels. And then if it's just like not gonna happen, I'm gonna bring you a monitor, Mr. David Crosby. And he tried it, and then the audience applauded, and he was like, "This is cool."
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of folks, they don't know they can do it.
Okay, that is Faces of NPR with Josh Rogosin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Summer.